Welcome everyone to our monthly preparedness seminar. And I'm going to save time at the end for questions, but of course, if you have comments, feel free to jump in or write down questions for discussion. And each category, maybe I'll even pause and we can ask questions and have discussion. So this month is light and power. So I'm going to share my screen. Okay, everybody's thumbs up, can see that? Okay. Great. Okay, so I am going to, we're going to start with light sources tonight and talk about, we'll start out with light and then we'll go to power. So I wanted to just give a brief overview of what produces light and how much, and found this little chart. So we have a glow stick, which is 4 lumens, all the way to a 100-watt standard light bulb, which is 1,850 lumens. But an 18-watt LED is pretty close to that. You've got the 2-mantle propane lantern, 2-mantle white gas lantern. So it just kind of goes a little bit less and less as far as lumens go. So it's your light intensity and how far that light spreads. So in an emergency, it just depends on how much light you want to fill a room. And this gives you kind of an idea. You can't see a lot with a glow stick. So tonight, just want to talk about the light sources that you have available and some light sources you might want to consider for emergencies. First, the category is battery. So we of course have our flashlights, lanterns, and headlamps, and those are pretty standard. We use those a lot, or we can't find them in an emergency because the kids have taken them and to play with them under their bed or in their fort. We have hand crank flashlights and lanterns, and I actually have a few hand crank flashlights and lanterns, but they take a long time to crank and they don't last terribly long. But if you cannot find any batteries and your solar isn't working, this is a really good option for a backup. So I really do like to have a few hand crank flashlights and lanterns on hand. And then of course we have our solar products. And tonight I'm going to not promote any company or product. I figure that everyone can Google and find what product works best for them. So if you will just Google products, I think that will be the best. But I just wanted to point out, you can Google solar flashlights and a lot of different brands come up, solar lanterns, solar headlamps. I really haven't seen a lot of solar headlamps. There's a few on the market, but one product I really, really like is the solar inflatable lights. When we go backpacking, it's a little inflatable, you just blow it up. It charges all day. And then at night, because it's clear and inflatable, it actually lights my entire tent and it charges really fast. So I love the inflatable solar option. Then of course we have an oil or kerosene lamp. Maybe think old fashioned, but I actually have a kerosene lamp. And I just put the word caution there because if it spills or it gets hot, it flames quickly, it's flammable. Our propane lanterns that we use backpacking or camping, those are great. They produce quite a bit of light, but again, you have to have the propane on hand and you want to use caution with that. And then candles. Growing up, we actually used candles in a power outage, and those are still a really good option. They have some new, even more modern ideas for candles. So I put together some pictures of some of the product. And as you can see, I have, starting in the bottom right-hand corner, we have our hand crank flashlight. These LED lanterns that you just pull up, you just pull them open. I love those. I have those in every room for an emergency. They're inexpensive, but they do take batteries. And then we have our solar lights outside in our yards. Those are great options for lights. And you can even get strings of lights that are solar. This one on the top is actually a candle that glows. So it produces, they claim it's the most powerful candle on the market. I watched a few YouTube videos to see if that was true, but it does glow. So it does put off a little bit extra. We have this 100-hour candle, and I have a few of those. This is just down below a package of solar options for candles. All right, I'm sorry, for flashlights and for lanterns. And then we have our propane or butane or whatever gas lantern, and then kerosene. And then you'll see the 2 inflatables that I included in the picture. Those are the ones I really think are fun and are easily charged and really do light up a room. I love them, and they are compact, so you can have a lot of them and store them. So any discussion or questions on things that we can use as light sources? I'm hearing nothing. So I was thorough. Okay. We're sure. Did I miss anything? Any other ideas on light sources?
I was just going to comment on that. The solar flashlights, I actually have a set of that exact brand. And in there's also a couple of the items have connections for your phone, so they can serve as emergency backups to your phone battery that are solar chargeable in the event that there's no electricity. So you can maintain, assuming the cell towers are still up, you have the ability to communicate.
Michael, that's a really good point. Thank you for pointing that out. That's true. And actually a lot of the solar products in various brands do have that option to charge a cell phone. And you can get actually portable solar, small mini solar panels that we even take backpacking. We just stick it on our backpack and it charges all day. And then we can charge our phones and other devices that way too. So really good point. Thank you for bringing that up. So few of our light sources. So we're going to move on to actual power sources in order to power more than just light. We're going to start with generators, and there's a lot of information about generators. I'm just going to barely cover the surface on generators because, again, you can Google, but it's overwhelming. So I wanted to put it in an organized way that you could maybe divide things out. So we have our gasoline or diesel generators. We have natural gas or propane generators. Then there are dual fuel generators that use both propane and gas. And then we have solar generators. So those are the different types of generators. And then on the right, those generators, those types of generators, they can be portable. They can be inverter, and we'll talk about what that means, or they can be a standby. Those are larger ones that you might hook your whole house up to. I wanted to just give a little information on how a generator works. The majority of you know and understand the concept, but there are 2 types of generators. So there's one known as AC, the alternating current, and DC, which is direct current. While the technique of producing electricity is the same for both types of generators, AC and DC power become different in terms of their application. So it's how it loads and receives the electrical. So for example, generators for a home use are typically the AC. They deliver the AC power, but cars will use generator engines that produce DC power. So just a little fun fact. You didn't want to know that. You did it, now you do. So we're going to start with what is a gas powered generator and what are some of the pros and cons. So a gas generator, I think most of us have experience with a gas generator. They're affordable. There's a huge variety of options and there's various sizes. We have really lightweight portable generators that I can carry in just one hand, and then you connect them together. So it makes them really, really portable. The disadvantage of a gas generator is that when the electricity goes out citywide and you're out of gas, you can't get more gas for the generator because the gas pumps use electricity unless their gas pumps have generators connected to them. So it might be hard to get gas, and you cannot store gas for longer than 12 months. And they also are really, really loud. So when we use a generator camping, we put it as far away as possible because it's so loud. The next type of generator is a natural gas or a propane gas generator. And the pros are that they last longer. The type of generator, they last longer, they're more durable. They start easily in the cold temperatures and they're quieter. And then of course, natural gas, they burn with little waste. It's readily available without power. Of course, some of the cons are propane is dangerous. It's kept under pressure. It's highly flammable, even explosive, and propane generators are more expensive to buy. So I've never actually used a propane generator. We've just had the gas because they're convenient and cheaper. And then you have the dual fuel. And I'm actually really interested in the dual fuel. And I've seen in several stores, this is becoming more and more popular and common to have the dual fuel generator. You have the gas, it uses both gas and propane. You can go back and forth. And any, okay, so I'll just talk about the uses, show some pictures, and then we can talk about this type of generator. So the benefit of a portable generator is it can be rolled or carried easily. And that's what a portable is. But an inverter generator, they're more energy efficient. They produce cleaner electricity because they make less noise. The disadvantage of the inverter generator is they can't produce as much power as a typical gas generator. So if you have a lot of demand or a lot of load, then an inverter generator won't keep up. And then of course, the last is the standby generator. This is what you would hook up to your home. And I have several neighbors that have done this, and it's something I'm interested in looking at just as another backup. It will keep your power on during a power outage if it's installed outside of your house like an AC unit is. And it comes on automatically and it runs on propane or natural gas. So you don't have to refuel it. And so here are some pictures of the different generators. So the top, again, we're not promoting any brands. I wanted just general pictures of types of generators. So in the top left corner, we have the dual fuel. So it runs off of the propane and the gas. And then the yellow one is an inverter. The green one is propane. And the red one is gas. And then we have our standalone that is hooked to the home with the natural gas. So well, there's one more, and then we'll talk about a little bit more about that. So you also want to know, so you have to decide what type of generator you want. And then you need to decide on the size and how much it will power. And again, these slides will be available online, so you can refer back to these slides. So what size of generator do you need? You want to add up the wattage of everything you want to power during an outage, and it gives you a rough approximation, but you have to keep in mind that some appliances like an air conditioner, refrigerator, sump pumps, they draw more wattage when they're cycling on. And so you have to calculate that into your formula. So an inverter generator up to 3,500 watts, I just listed some things that it could power. A portable generator up to 7,500 watts, what it could power. Seems like a lot. And then your home standby is up to 20,000 watts. So when you purchase a generator, you just have to make sure you're looking at the wattage, because each generator, this says up to 7,500 watts. That would be a very large portable generator. Okay, thoughts, questions, and comments?
Natalie, this is Gene. We have a neighbor that has a standby, actually a couple of them that have standby generators. In the past, when we've had power failures, they'll pop on, they'll come on, and it's interesting. It's total blackness around them, and here's this house all lit up that says, "Come steal from me." Yeah, it's just something to think about when something goes off at night. Are you going to run your generators, power up everything, and be a standout? Just a thought is all. It's on safety.
That's a really interesting thought. So if you choose to do the standby in a power outage, you may want to turn out all your lights, and then it's just running your refrigerator and some other things that maybe the neighbors wouldn't know about. I think that's a really good, important thing to point out for security. Anything else?
So I have a question.
Hi, Sue, go ahead.
Hi, so solar, like if you have solar, the power is out, your solar won't work, period.
We're going to get to that slide.
Sorry, I'm
No,
jumping ahead.
good. I can jump right into that. Anybody else on gas power generators?
I was just going to comment on generators, because most businesses have them too. It's important when if your generator goes on, the things it'll power, it can only power those things so long as the fuel lasts. And so you do want to remove as many holes on the generator as possible, so that the fuel will last you as long as possible, and it'll be just in case it's an extended outage, especially if you're talking like during the winter months where you need the power to run the fans for your heater. You'll want to take down as many things as you don't need running as possible.
Thank you. That's a really good point as well. We want to turn everything off in the house so that it can fuel the heat or the refrigerator for many days instead of maybe one day or half a day because you ran out of fuel. So that is something we definitely want to think about. Okay, security and fuel. Any other thoughts on gas-powered generators?
Natalie, I have a question.
Okay.
Can you hear me?
Yep.
On the standby one, you said it could run on propane or natural gas. Is that like the one that can do either or, like the dual, or do you buy one for either or?
Okay, so the standby is typically connected to your gas. And so
Okay.
I don't know if there's a dual fuel standby. Does anybody else know?
I'm just wondering, like, if there's an earthquake or something and we do have to shut off our gas, can you switch that to propane?
I think because of the way propane is stored, I don't know that they can, because the whole point of it is you connect it to a fuel line.
A fuel line.
So
Okay.
if it's just a power outage, it could power your house would be fine. But you're right, in an earthquake, the standby, I don't think you'd be able to keep it on if your gas line got damaged.
Okay. And can you switch it over at that point to a tank, a propane tank, or do they not go back and forth a dual thing at all?
Unless it's a dual, I don't think it could. And I think
Okay.
typically with those ones, they're designed to be one or the other. But
Okay.
propane, I don't think we're allowed to have huge propane tanks on our property anyway.
Yeah.
So
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, great points, everyone. All right. So let's move on off of gas powered generators. Lots of good options there. And we're going to move to solar generators. So technically a solar power generator is any system that runs off of solar power, but it really refers to a portable power station that uses solar panels. So right now in our discussion, we're actually talking about a portable solar generator. We're not talking about solar on our homes. I will get to that at the end as well. So a portable solar generator uses solar panels to capture the sun's energy and stores that energy into a battery, and then it's to be used later. So there are 4 components to a solar generator. We again they need a portable solar panel, they need a solar charge controller, a solar battery, and an inverter. The solar panels, they'll convert the sunlight into the DC electricity, and it's passed through the charge controller. The charge controller regulates the voltage of the electricity into the battery, where the solar energy is then stored for use later. Most solar generators sold today are lithium-ion batteries. And when you need to use the energy stored in the battery, the inverter will convert the electricity into the alternating current energy, or AC power, the AC power. So that's just a little technical side of how the solar works. Solar generators usually have the USB port. We did talk about that with the flashlights and the lanterns. They usually come with that USB port, and so do the generators. And actually the gas powered generators, some of those also come with ports, but these all come with the USB ports. And they also come with 12-volt car ports, so you could charge multiple devices. So this is just a little graphic on how solar generators work. You have the panel to the controller to the battery, which inverts it so you can use it. So the pros of a solar generator is that you don't have to worry about running out of fuel. The sun is usually always there somewhere, even if it's behind a cloud. So if it's a really cloudy day, or you have a lot of cloudy days in a row and lots of storming, then you aren't going to be able to charge your generator as fast or at all. It is clean and renewable, and it's very quiet and very low maintenance. So they are more expensive, they're slower to recharge, and you are a little bit more limited in the power. So when you're talking power, you may want to have different options. You may want to have solar and gas. Most solar power generators have an all-in-one design, so you don't have to worry about the solar charger and inverter and the battery pack, but most of them don't come with the panel. So there's going to be a cost for the generator, and you think, oh, I can afford that. And then you have to buy the solar panel. So just buyer beware. So here are some pictures of solar generators. We have a really nice, sleek brand name one up in the top left. And then we have a homemade one, and you can make, and some of us actually made homemade generators a few years ago. And so the middle one is a homemade one, and you can get online and there are instructions how to make them. And then these are just on the right components that you need for your solar generator. And then some other pictures down below, one of a homemade one with the solar panel working. And then the bottom right, the orange one, is another brand with the solar panels charging that generator. So I've included, and you really cannot read this chart terribly well, and I took off all the brands because you can Google this and find it on your own on the internet. But there are different things that you can look for in a solar generator. So you want to see what the battery capacity is, the voltage, the inverter size, how it cycles, all the way down to how many outlets. It also says how long does it take to charge in your car, the fastest solar charging time. There's one that takes 5 hours there's a few that take 5 hours to charge, and some that take 3 hours to charge. So just a chart to kind of reference, and that's, remember, on a really sunny day. So just a few comparisons for different solar generators. Okay, So let's go back. Let's talk about solar generators for just a minute. And I would love any feedback or comments about solar generators.
One thing I'd keep in mind is solar panels and batteries have life cycles. I think solar panels, they're getting them up to about 25 years, but batteries at best still sit about around 10. And if you're using it regularly at all, you have to keep in mind its life cycle. So you may not be able to store it perpetually, whereas some of the gas powered generators don't have that kind of shelf life cap on their, at least as low of one on their functionality.
So can you buy a solar generator and replace the battery when it starts to lose its capacity or ability to recharge? Or do you have to replace the entire expensive generator?
Technically, you only need to replace the battery. The question is, does the manufacturer make that easy to do? And do they sell replacement batteries? That's the big question. And some of the companies, I haven't looked into these myself, but some of the companies may not have that totally figured out yet, since solar only more recently became a viable option for products like this.
So an option might be, if you're really motivated, is to do a home made one, because that is simple to change out parts.
Yeah, if you have the know-how, if you build it yourself, it's easier to swap parts as they decay and need to be replaced.
Yeah, so great point. Any other comments on solar generators? Okay, we're going to move to solar panels on our homes. So, okay, solar on your home. Solar energy is powered by solar panels. And this is just a little bit of a technical paragraph about how they work. And so I'm going to skip that part. But I am going to skip to the end of this paragraph. Actually, I think we better read it, because this does explain a little bit of how it works with the power grid. So these panels absorb the sun's energy in order to create DC electricity. However, since most establishments and homes run on alternate AC electricity, DC electricity is converted to AC electricity through the inverter. Once the solar energy is converted to AC electricity, it powers your home. Therefore, solar panels cannot serve as a backup if AC electricity goes out during inclement weather or other events, because the sun can't charge. Additionally, solar energy cannot be used in the case of a power outage. And I think this is really important here. And this is why, in order to protect utility repairmen working to restore power, if electricity is backfeeded while utility repairmen are working on the lines, it could be dangerous or even fatal. There's maybe even a few other reasons why it can't be stored or used in a blackout, but there is a way to make your solar panels on your home work in a blackout situation. And you have to actually have a system that works with backup batteries. And so the company that installed your system, you have to call them and find out if they can install the batteries. Backup batteries can be installed. A custom backup system may not be worth the price yet. Technology has not really caught up enough to provide a good cost to benefit ratio. And again, we go back to those batteries don't last forever. Additionally, custom backup systems require significant maintenance and replacement every 7 to 10 years. So cost-wise, it might not be worth it, but I did put a bullet point that the invention of the Tesla Powerwall may change these prospects. So, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but I have a picture of our solar panels on our home. And then I have a picture of the Tesla Powerwall. So if you have solar, it will not work in a blackout situation unless you have had it converted to be able to jump over with the battery usage. Hopefully soon we all will be able to have the Tesla Powerwall, but I would really love some feedback and comment and you will have to contact your individual solar companies and again, Google for more information on specifics for your home, but I would love some comments and feedback.
Yeah, I mean, I can jump in. I actually have one of the systems that can stay on in a blackout on my house. It does add a substantial cost, so you have to actually want it. Now, some of the cost does get offset from a traditional solar system, and I can kind of explain why that happens. But yeah, there's a few companies that do it, but basically the way that they have to install a battery, and if it's not Tesla, usually they're installing like an LG battery probably. And those get cheaper every year, so it's probably not too many years out. And then you have to have an inverter, and the inverter does the conversion for your house, and then it also serves as kind of the router for the electricity and where it goes. And that's what keeps your home running. There is some cost offset in those systems because the traditional ones, what they do is they produce the electricity and they send it through your meter out to your utility provider. In our case, that's Rocky Mountain. And then you buy back all your electricity. And then they credit you for a certain amount based on what you provide, which I think they recently switched to. They used to be a really good credit. They gave you like 92% or something of the value of every kilowatt hour you made, you got back as a credit. But I think at least from what I've read, they've switched to more like 55%. And what the systems with inverters and backup batteries, what they do is, because it actually has the ability to route the electricity into your house, every kilowatt hour you use for your house, you get to keep 100% of the value of it because it goes to your house first. And then it goes to your battery, and then it would go out back to the grid. And so some of the cost offset comes in is if you change your lifestyle to maximize the value of it, the cost per kilowatt hour of the systems that actually have the emergency backups are cheaper because you get to use it first. You're not relying on a credit from Rocky Mountain Power for what you produce. So it's something to keep in mind, but they are still substantially more expensive. And I just say in solar, just make sure you know what you're buying. Don't get tricked, because sometimes the solar salespeople they get overly excited and they promise you your system will stay on if the power goes out, and you're actually not getting one of those systems because they're fairly new. So a lot of people got tricked by that. And also you do get what you pay for. So the companies that offer the budget options, they do work, but they're not in the business of providing the emergency backup variant. And they're just the straight, we're going to put solar panels on the house and electricity goes straight out to Rocky Mountain Power, at least from what I've researched. So it's just important when you're buying it, educate yourself, know exactly what you're spending your money on, because it's a lot of money no matter what. And it's easy to get excited about it and then find out later that you didn't actually know exactly what kind of system you were buying.
Great. Thank you, Michael. Glad to have an expert on tonight. Any other comments about solar on your home or questions about any of the presentation tonight? Okay. So is that it, everyone? You know everything about light and power now. You all can go plan how you're going to be one of those neighbors that's glowing in the dark, ready to be robbed.
On the
Going to
flip
Jean's
side, though,
house.
there is some benefit to the lights being on.
Yes.
It can go both ways. Sometimes that serves as a deterrent where it's like, oh, those people will be able to see me. They won't have the cover of darkness in their home. So I think it's kind of a mixed bag. It depends on who's in the neighborhood, I guess.
For sure. Okay, everyone, thanks for joining tonight. I will post this online along with the slides. And then that way, as you have people that have questions about any of these areas of preparedness, it's just so easy to send them to the slides and to the videos so they can just watch and people can do it on their own time. So we're really excited. We're skipping June, and in July, we'll talk about sanitation, thanks to Jean and Janice.
Ooh.
Okay.